What is the worst punishment you received as a kid? This post is fucking depressing. I interpreted it as, reasonable but harsh for a kid, punishment, but people are telling stories of parents with anger issues who were just being assholes. So sorry you guys had to go through that. It might sound silly, but getting yelled at by my dad. He's got a short temper and sometimes I felt like I was walking on eggshells around him. Even hearing him yell at my siblings sent me into shakes and tears. Edit. Thanks for all the nice comments and support, and hugs to all of you dealing with similar things. Happily I'm living with good friends and I've cut off contact with my dad, so I'm doing okay. Age 3 to 5 SMTH like that, so I didn't like peas, and I had to eat it. So I ate them one by one. Later that day my dad read me a bedtime story, letter by letter. And #X200B. This is silly, not bad, I know. Just wanted to make some people smile maybe, between all these sad comments. ITT. People who were abused as children but had parents claim it was punishment. Didn't happen to me but to a mutual friend of mine. His parents didn't pay the school fees for the month and so he wasn't allowed to sit in class. Instead he was forced to stand in the blistering summer sun throughout the afternoon to force the parents to paying the fees as soon as possible. Undeserved, inhuman and unethical. Pisses me off even today that the school got away with this sort of thing. I got beaten the hell out me by my father. Went to hospital for about 5 days. My face was black and yellow. 5th grade. I stole my friend's Hot Wheels car. My dad found out and made me learn JavaScript. I refused to clean my room so my mom got out a shovel and anything that was on the floor was shoveled into a big black garbage bag and thrown away. I wouldn't salute so I was punched in the sternum and while laying on the ground trying to catch my breath I was kicked with combat boots until I was coughing up blood. Don't ask why this happened. I don't remember. I do remember realizing that this was probably not normal. When I was 4 years old I was supposed to change into a nicer shirt because we were going to my grandma's on Mother's Day. I refused to change because it was my favorite shirt and my mom lost it and stripped me buck naked. She dragged me into the car like that with my siblings laughing at me. When we got to my grandma's house she paraded me out in front of the neighbors and I was so hysterical by the time we got inside that I wet myself all over my grandma's carpet. I got yelled at even more. It's a really awful memory that sticks with me even now. Standing in the corner, my parents would spank me but that would not faze me at all, but man did I hate it. Soap in the mouth was pretty bad too. Neglected. Edit. Didn't see that wholesome award coming. I wasn't so much punished as victimized by outbursts of rage. Worst was getting a blunt object thrown at my eye for making a derisive comparison to the helicopter parent of one of my friends. I don't even remember how old I was anymore, it was definitely before puberty though. Forced to eat food I absolutely despised until I vomit. My mother never believed I hated certain food and they make me absolutely ill. From the age of 8 till I was 12. Then when I started cooking because she was working, I made sure twice a week to make things she hated just to force her to make her own meals. I had physical punishment beyond what most endure. But the one punishment that really changed me was my mother saying how disappointed she was in me and refusing to talk to me for what I'd done. Her silence lasted a day or two. One evening, I went to my friend's house, which was directly opposite to mine, to play. Both of us ended up watching a movie and only when it ended did I realize that it was 15 minutes past my curfew time. My father was already waiting for me at the door when I left my friend's house. When we entered my house, he caught hold of me and smacked me across my face. The impact was strong enough to send me flying back against the wall. He grabbed me and slapped me again. By the time he was done, I had already pissed my pants twice. I was 6. I was always afraid of him after that. I was always grounded for entire summers. Hard to learn how to have a social life dealing with that. A life of anxiety and depression due to, among many other things, extreme favoritism. Physically having my mouth washed out with soap for blurting out the F word. I don't think I had even started school yet, UK, so who knows if I really knew what I was saying. I can still taste the soap now. Nauseated face. Probably solitary. I used to go to juvie as a kid and they'd use solitary for any fucking reason they could think of, like being short on staff, or making fun of Tom Hanks movies, or because somebody else started a fight with you. The solitary unit was just a row of cells of teenagers with nothing to do, making a lot of noise and banging on doors, and generally going insane. It really didn't help anything for anyone. My parents weren't particularly punishing. In fact, my dad has frequently lamented their decision to not spank us. The one really dickish punishment they used was to make us stand in front of the wall while my dad pulled a quarter out of his pocket. He placed it against the wall and we would have to hold it in place with our noses for a set time. If it fell, he'd replace the coin with a smaller one and start the time over again. Cast out. Sent to a children's home. Lol. I say, lol, but I'm being deadly serious. Wasn't on purpose, but I was told to stand in the corner, don't remember what I did. They forgot I was there, so I stood there all night and my parents found me sleep still in the corner. My dad used to spank us with an old leather weightlifting belt he had. I bought the wrong potatoes when my mother didn't want to go into the store. She screamed at me and grounded me for not looking hard enough. My stepdad made me do the invisible chair thing with a huge book on my head for hours, and he would ask if I wanted a break, and if I said yes he'd make me do push-ups. If I said no I'd do sit-ups, and if I ignored him he'd stack more books. I actually really liked him, but his punishments were hell. I wasn't holding my pen the correct way in second grade, so one day I came home after school and found every single pencil in my pencil case having been outfitted with a rubber grip that forced you to put your fingers in the correct position. There was nothing actually wrong with my printing, but that wasn't enough. That was the last time my dad was allowed to be involved in my schoolwork. My mom hit me with a wooden stick. I can't sit for days. When I got upset about something and my parents didn't like it, my dad used to put me in the shower, fully clothed, and turn the ice-cold water on. Apparently it was to calm me down, but looking back on it I find it plain abusive. Also, being held down on the floor when I did something bad and wanted to run away. I would scream and cry and just wanted to hide, but I couldn't, because my parents wanted an answer. I forgot to email a recipe for my mum to one of her friends. She took all my Christmas presents away, then made me watch my sister open all of hers. Nothing major really, but if my mum was angry with me she'd just ignore me completely. Become cold and dismissive. It was worse when she'd guilt-trip me. I remember one morning I was late for the bus, tired and looking for something I needed. I was being a little short, but she turned around and called me a bitch and to leave the house. I leave without what I needed and come home too. Now you know why I called you a bitch. You were making me feel bad and upset. It was only natural I reacted that way. There was never an apology when she did it, just a, you deserved it, sort of pep talk. My parents were fond of physical abuse. Dad preferred belts, mom liked wooden spoons. The stuff that really got to me though was the verbal and psychological stuff. Worst was taking the door to my room. I suddenly didn't have even a trace of safety at home anymore. I still have nightmares about it. That moment when you realize that when your parents said, "I'll give you something to cry about," didn't mean they were gonna hit you but rather give you years of trauma and depression. Kissy face scissor. Pick your switch as a psychological bitch. Is it sturdy enough to not break, but small enough to not hurt as much? You ask yourself as you're searching for the device of your own punishment. Because, if it breaks, you're going to have to go back for another. Ye old hand on stove was my nightmare, still got rings on my hands from the scars. It's pretty common, I've met lots of people with the same burns. My math teacher did some judo karate suplex shit on a few of us boys and then proceeded to punish us by asking us to stand in the middle of the field with chairs held up high above our heads, and it's like 35 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. One of my classmates fainted but nobody dared to report to our parents. Fast forward a few years and we were in our last year of high school. Most of us got pretty rebellious and constantly at war with words with said teacher. One of the other kid in the other class actually got expelled for suplexing the math teacher when he got called out by the teacher for something he didn't do. Everybody was cheering that day. Short story. I was woken up with a beating in the middle of the night by my dad because I didn't boil him any tea. Let it sink on for a moment. I am not angry, just disappointed. Holy shit. Most of these stories are abuse, not discipline. Discipline is taking your phone away for missing curfew. Discipline is being grounded for smoking weed with your friends. Not beating the hell out of you, or publicly humiliating you for petty things. Really fucked up how almost all of these count as child abuse and would be legally punishable. My mother's ex put out a cigarette on my arm for accidentally kicking a football at him lol. Still have the ugly ass scar. My mom yelled and threatened 8-year-old me to call the police because she was convinced I stole and gave away her extremely expensive family ring that I had never touched in my life, because I used to exchange €1 vending machine rings with my friends. I was terrified. I thought I would go to jail. I was crying non-stop, but she wouldn't believe me, so it lasted from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Wow. You people had actually brutal punishments. While I'm here with, I had to walk to ice hockey practice in rain. My mom would get at me and tackle me. I would be on the floor defending my upper torso and face while she is on top of me sitting on my waist so I couldn't move. I was a kid, so she was heavier and would just keep throwing slaps with her hands and/or flip-flops. The flip-flops were more merciful. Once when I was 6 we had a science test about matter. I got one wrong. A question regarding if cooking gas had a smell or not. I answered no. When my mom saw the paper, she put my face near the stove range to make sure I got that it had a smell. I had to write, "I will not use profanity," on the front and back of a sheet of paper every time I swore cussed. I spent an entire summer filling out 1,000 sheets of paper. Plus side as my handwriting is neat now. I am not sure which one was worse for me. I once got suspended for getting into a fight in 4th grade and had everything stripped from my room, nothing but a mattress and a pile of my cloths. They even took my door. All of this after I got whipped with a belt 23 times. I only know the number because of my sisters. My mom had a husband that absolutely hated me, and since my mom was no longer able to use corporal punishment, court mandate, he took over punishments. I was confined to my room for about 3 years. It wasn't one punishment, but there were times I would get off being grounded, walk into the living room, and he would say, "You didn't do your chores, go back to your room." There was always a reason I had to go back in there. Forced to watch my N64 and all the games on it get smashed to pieces by my dad, then I was forced to clean up the remains and throw it out. All that for missing one question on an exam. Got spanked and stood in the corner for over an hour with my bare butt on full display for getting a detention. I was already in high school at this point, and was given the detention for a dress code violation. My mom's logic was, "Since you want to show off so much skin, let me help you," and spanked my bare ass with a sandal. I guess she thought she was saving me from a teenage pregnancy. It took me reaching adulthood to finally realize that most parents don't punish their children that way. I had friends in the house when I wasn't supposed to. Mother came home early from the pub, literally never happened before. And she took me into the downstairs bathroom, picked me up by my throat and held me against the wall and hit me in the face. The walls in that bathroom were all pointy and had little spikes, hurt like hell. Apparently I deserved it though. I was 14.